Hey, welcome to OT Asset Management Weekly, where we talk about all things OT asset management and sometimes even, let's just say, loosely related topics. For example, last week I was discussing the CrowdStrike incident. But anyhow, today it's going back to hardcore OT asset management stuff. Today I will be talking about a network, OT network inventory. Just to give you a quick idea of what such an inventory would look like, this is what you see here. And it's just in OTbase, you see in the left sidebar, you see various dimensions that you can focus on in your OT asset inventory. Devices is the first one, but then further down you also find networks, and this will present you with a list of all the networks that are within your OT installed base. And why is that important? I would even go further. Why is that an absolute necessity? Well, for a simple reason. If you do not know which networks a particular asset is connected to, then your OT security efforts are tanked, right? So how would you be able to protect a device or a group of devices if you don't know which networks they are in? And that brings us to a very interesting observation, which simply is, if you take a close look at all the OT threat detection products, even at some CMDB products such as ServiceNow, they don't have a network inventory. Isn't that strange? Well, I can tell you the simple technological reason for this fact. They don't do active discovery. And just imagine from a technology perspective, if you are not a member of a given network, then you cannot enumerate all the endpoints on that network. If you're just digesting all the network traffic from a span port, you don't know about networks. Or certainly you can expose IP addresses, maybe even network addresses, but you don't know about the network association. You don't know the network address, for example, because you don't have the net mask. And you certainly don't know about the VLAN ID. So, and that is the reason why such products don't feature a network inventory, which leads to the problem that they are pretty useless for protection and also make it difficult for using them for any risk assessment or risk management projects, because just consider, again, if you don't know what network a given device is on, then you don't know the network neighborhood, you don't know about any routing capabilities, possibilities, etc. And that makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to do your risk assessment and to arrive at a proper protection strategy for your OT assets. So let's go a little bit further here. Let's look at a device profile. So just any given device within OTbase, once that you do a double click in the device inventory, then you get what we call a device profile, where all the information that is collected about the device is exposed. And let's just work from top to bottom. So this is a Festo RTU. And besides all the hardware details, configuration details, the physical location where that thing is, now you have this section here on connectivity. And the interesting thing about this section is that it clearly shows you which network this thing is on. It's called the BIW non-real-time network. So that's another thing. In OTbase, you can assign names to those networks that have been discovered automatically, which certainly makes it much easier to use. So it enhances the usability, because the engineers on site will immediately know that that's the non-real-time network in the body in white. Okay, got it. And as you also see, you see that if there are multiple network connections, as in this case, they're also exposed. So here we have two connections to one and the same network. Don't forget, these are physical RT interfaces, and this is logical with the IP addresses. It's the same IP address. That's a usual thing with these products, so don't be confused about that. Then here you get this little diagram of the network neighborhood, and what I want you to consider, this is layer 1. So this is the physical connectivity. That is very important. And you will see later that since we are able to discover that physical layer, we can also automatically create your network topology diagrams. I'll get back to that later. But first of all, here we can see which logical networks, L3, this device is actually a part of. And that is super important for anything you want to do in OT security, and certainly also for anything in engineering and maintenance. You must know which network this device sits on. And now we can take it a step further and ask, well, show me more about that network. I want to see all the details that are known for this network. In order to do this, we would simply click on the network name, and that opens the network profile. So what we see here initially is the physical location of that network. Whereas the device was sitting in a part of this building, the network covers this whole building here. Okay, so that is something that you can very easily model in OTbase. But let's go further down. So here we get information about the address space. You see here at the top, this is the network address with the net mask, with the /23 or 24 or 25, whatever it might be. That is automatically discovered by OTbase. And why? Because we do active discovery. Therefore, the discovery node is part of the network and knows its local environment. So this is information that's automatically picked up. And certainly that goes a long way, because based on this, we can now also present the user with an IP address list, as you see down here. Okay, and you will also see spare IP addresses. These are the entries in green. We can use these IP addresses for new devices. By the way, if a new device would be connected to that network, it would be flagged. It would be highlighted in orange just to make you aware that there is a new device here. And you see how that works on here. Up here, highlight new devices since. And then, for example, if you would want to know which devices have been added to the network since yesterday, since last week, very easy to do. And then you would get those devices highlighted here. You can also then get a notification via email and all the stuff that you would probably expect. But let's move on here. Again, what you see here is the address space as it is consumed in this network by all those endpoints. And the color codes, they represent different device types. So for example, you can see here where there are a couple of sensors in that network, and I can easily spot that because sensors use a yellow color code in this configuration. You can change that to red or blue, whatever you like. So this is configurable, but you get a very quick idea of what this network is all about. We see some additional free space here from 102 to 105. And so it goes. A couple of actuators here, power flexes, AC drives. All this information is discovered automatically. And that gives you an idea of the benefits of active discovery. That is what you always wanted to see. Just confess it. Just admit. That is what you don't get from passive sniffing. It's not going to happen. So here you see everything nicely lined up with the address space, the various device types, the exact configuration data, like the firmware version that's running on those devices. And you get the full picture. Another couple of details I want to show you is You also have the capability to reserve IP addresses, as in this example right here. So I have reserved a couple of IP addresses, and they are then highlighted in turquoise and with that R, with that red R at the front. And you would also see this exposed up here in this section here, where it spells out the reserved IP addresses. Okay, the other thing that this comes with is an automatic network topology. This is what you see here. Don't forget, we started out from a specific device, from this Festo device, okay? And since this is my context, how I got into that network profile, this is what OTbase now focuses me on. So this is my Festo device that I came from, okay? And now if I zoom out, I see the whole topology. I see the layer 1 context, how everything is wired together, okay? So this is just an added benefit. And certainly if I wanted to explore additional details, so I could just, let's say I want to know more about this particular switch, then I just do a double click, and that then takes me to the device profile of that switch. Now, again, keep in mind, this is not, we are exploring the network neighborhood, and this is super important for any risk assessment exercise that you want to do. And also imagine if you wanted to do imagine if you wanted to do a network segregation project and you didn't have this capability. Where do you want to start if you don't know about network association? So that project would be dead in the water. And therefore, this capability is super important. And that is something to consider when you think about, when you decide about your tooling. Okay, so when you consider what actually do you want to achieve in your OT security efforts and what do you need. So the one thing I would like you to keep in mind and to focus on, if you're using passive sniffing, you won't get all that network context. And that severely limits the use cases for such a tool when it comes to OT security, and certainly also when it comes to engineering and maintenance. And the one thing that you should also consider is, if you think about all those benefits, they might entice you to finally check out how dangerous active discovery really is. Let me tell you, friends, you have been fooled many years about the potential dangers of active discovery. You have been fed nonsense. It's just unreal. And this is basically what I wanted to cover in this session. If you want to learn more about the network inventory, I would like to draw your attention to a handbook that we have published. You can access it on our website. It's called the OT Asset Inventory Handbook, where you also see a little bit, but you get a little bit of background on how that all comes together and why the network inventory is such an important part. Let me just put it in very simple terms. Just consider any of these private networks that you have in OT, right? 192.168.0.0/24. But you have how many of those? Maybe dozens. And if you don't know which of these networks a given device with 192.168.0.10 is in, what are you going to do with this information? It's not really actionable. And this is where the network context really provides you that breakthrough detail that you absolutely need. And basically, in my opinion, this is one aspect where you can clearly see that many of the tools that are available today just have a an IT background, because in IT, the network context isn't as important because you don't have as many networks. So for a given site in OT, let's just say a manufacturing site, it is absolutely normal that you have more than 100 networks in one site. And that certainly also means at a enterprise-wide level, you are talking about many hundreds, if not more than 1,000 networks. And if you have no idea on which of these 1,000 networks a given device actually sits, then you actually don't have an asset inventory. So the idea that a list of IP addresses with, let's just say, assumptions about the device type, maybe even the vendor, that this would be an asset inventory, that is just nonsense. It doesn't provide actionable details. And this is why the network context is so important. And don't forget, you won't get that network context without active discovery. Check out the handbook that I pointed out. You can you can download it from our website if you go to the features section in the main menu, and then you go down to OT asset inventory. This is where you will be able to download that handbook. And also, if you want to dig deeper, there are tons of videos on our YouTube channel that also show you various details of the OT asset inventory in OTbase, including the network inventory. Just as a final remark, if you want to compare this to OT threat detection products, sometimes they talk about networks, but what they really mean is data flow. This is something completely different. So when you think about all those nice flower bed-like diagrams that you have seen from the OT threat detection tools, that is not a network topology. That is data flow. That is something completely different. And this is also covered in OTbase, but that's not the topic of our session today. So just keep that in mind when you consider the utility of the tools that you need to incorporate. Okay, so let's look at the comments, at the questions. Okay, here we have a couple of interesting questions, all from our friend Kalyan. Kalyan, how are you doing? With active discovery scanning, what is the traffic impact on network and devices? This is a topic that is brought up frequently, and so therefore I'm grateful for the question, because it allows me to get rid of a very common misconception. The misconception is that the active discovery process as implemented in OTbase would generate a ton of traffic on the network, and that is just plain and simple BS. Let me be very clear about this. This is BS. So what you should consider is the active discovery as implemented in OTbase is totally different from something like scanning as implemented in Nmap or implemented in Qualys. So when you think about the vulnerability scanner products, that is something totally different. Your average vulnerability scanner will bombard the endpoints with tons of packets, okay? Because they're just trying to figure anything out. And this is commonplace in IT, it doesn't work in OT. So the active discovery that is implemented in OTbase, you can compare that to RS Links, for example, or to Siemens TIA Portal. So they also do active discovery, shocker. And if you would examine the network traffic in Wireshark as an example, you will see the exact interactions that happen, and you will see, oh, wait a second, that was just a couple of seconds, and now I have all the details. Wow, how did that happen? Very simple, because OTbase leverages the legitimate industrial protocols that usually the engineering software also leverages, okay? And as a part of these protocols, you have functions that are exactly there for the purpose of soliciting metadata from the device, make and model, hardware version, installed firmware version, connectivity, etc. This is all implemented in those protocols. And since there are dedicated function calls for this, the interactions with the device, that's a couple of seconds. And the best thing is you don't have to take my word for it. You can check it out. You can download OTbase Discovery from our website as an evaluation version. Just let it run in your test environment and use Wireshark and see what happens. I urge you, make it happen. Come on. If you're an engineer, you want to find out. You want to find out the truth, and you will see the truth in your Wireshark, in your PCAP. And then this will most likely convince you, well, I have been fooled. I have been told bullshit by all the agenda-driven people who alarmed me about the dangers of active discovery. Okay, so that is, you can totally neglect the traffic impact on networks and devices, and you will see that rather quickly when you do a test for this. Next question by our friend Kalyan. Can you customize the device type and colors? Yes, you can. So you remember I showed you that sensor that was color-coded in yellow. If you don't like yellow, you just turn it to red or blue or whatever you like. And also the device types. This is quite sophisticated in OTbase, so you can just rearrange the device types and the device categories as we call that. This is configurable, and we might look at that in detail in another webcast. Again, our man Kalyan, network topology. Does it show DLR device level rings connected in linear star topology? Yes, it does shows DLRs as a ring. Let me check if I can show you that rather quickly. No, I can't. Wait a second. Maybe we can get there. So let's check this out. And no, I cannot operate that screen from here. That's a shortcoming, a pitfall of my setup here. But you will see the device level rings. So what I suggest to do is, as I said, we have a ton of videos for network topology, drawing network diagrams. You can even, when it comes to the layout, you can rearrange that. You remember, usually we use an orthogonal layout where all the lines are very nice, like an engineering diagram with those edges. But you can also rearrange the layout if you want to. You can put it into something like that flower bed style layout that you usually get from the threat detection products. And that is, so the answer is yes, you will see your DLRs, in our opinion, a very important feature because, well, especially when it comes to engineering use cases, you want to see those rings, and you will see them. Then we have another question by Daniel Irneich. Welcome, Daniel, to the show. What might happen when a non-expert person conduct active asset inventory? I think what you're talking about is active asset discovery. And I tell you what is going to happen. That non-expert person will say, wow, look at all the details that I'm getting. So what I gather from your question is that you are under the impression, it would take an expert to configure OTbase discovery in the right way that it doesn't crash the whole site. And that is not the case. So the reality is that the majority of users, they don't bother to fine-tune the configuration of OTbase discovery. They just let it run with everything enabled, and guess what? Their site didn't go down. So no problem at all. And so this is actually the configuration that is mostly used by the vast majority of users. I would say, well, if you want to fine-tune something, you could disable a couple of protocols, but usually the users don't invest that effort. what you usually see is when it comes to configuration, just to give you a practical example, keep in mind OTbase will also show you your field bus networks. Yes, that's correct. You heard that right. Your device nets, your control nets with all the endpoints exposed, right? Oh, guess what? All the devices that don't even have an IP address, you will see your field buses. You will see all the endpoints on those field buses. And that would be an area where some users say, oh, that's for us a little bit overkill. Maybe we disable that feature so that we are not pestered with all the field bus devices in our OT asset inventory. Other users, on the other hand, say, wow, that's fantastic, because those field bus devices, I know as a fact, they create our biggest obsolescence problem, because we know that for most of these products, we will not be able to purchase spare parts anymore. So I definitely want to see all the field bus devices. I definitely want to see where they are connected to, etc. So this is the state of affairs for the network topology. And basically, that's what I wanted to focus on today. We're just about time. And just stay tuned for next week's webcast. We will focus on very different topics. And if you signal a very deep interest in a particular topic, let us know, and we will focus on that topic in one of the upcoming sessions. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.